I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 21. Let's focus on verses 11 through 13. So Gad came to David and said to him, "Thus says the Lord, choose for yourself either 3 years of famine or 3 months to be defeated by your foes with the sword of your enemies overtaking you, or else for 3 days the sword of the Lord, the plague in the land, with the angel of the Lord destroying throughout all the territory of Israel. Now consider what answer I should take back to him who sent me." And David said to Gad, "I am in great distress. Please let me fall into the hand of the Lord, for his mercies are very great, but do not let me fall into the hand of man." You know, when I was a boy, for 3 years, we lived in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I recall opening the door of our home one day and chatting with a man, a stranger, holding a clipboard. He can't be dangerous. He has a clipboard. And he asked me questions about various aspects of our lives, and I was happy to oblige him. And when I think about that moment today, I would be terrified to know that my own children would open the door to a stranger, much less carry on a 30-minute conversation with him. But hey, those were different days back then, and people had more trust. It turns out the man was with the U.S. Census Bureau, and he was gathering information about the average household, and he was doing it all for the government. Now, given my pleasant experience with census takers, for many years I was perplexed as to why King David's census was considered evil by the Lord. Furthermore, why was Joab, who was the head of David's army, why was he so against it? Well, David's census was sinful because David was not taking God at his word. God had said that he would establish David's kingdom. And David was not interested in counting all the heads like you think of a census. David was counting which Israelites were for David and which ones were against him. David had stopped walking by faith, and he was trusting in his own eyesight. You see, David wanted an accounting of things that God had promised would come to pass, and yet God had withheld the data as to how God was going to make those things come to pass. David was literally shaking the presents under the tree, if you can understand that analogy. Obviously, the census must have revealed that the majority of Israel were against the Davidic kingdom. And the kingdom was still divided between David's tribe, Judah, and the rest of Israel, who were still influenced by Saul's hatred of David. Those things just don't go away overnight. Remember how David would not raise his hand against the Lord's anointed, Saul? Well, God's fury broke out against Israel when they raised their ballots against the Lord's anointed, David. And it was David's fault because he had forced the vote. They were suffering because of his anxiety. And once David saw the gravity of his own sin, that he should have just taken God at his word, that his faithfulness had led to destruction within his own nation, David's heart for his enemies, right, those Israelites who were not pro-David, well, then his heart for his enemies turned from bitterness to empathy and compassion for them. David, the anxious king, turned back into David the shepherd. He pleaded with the Lord, and he took full responsibility, and he asked that the Lord's rebuke would be turned away from the people and directly onto himself. Consider this, 1 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 17. "And David said to Gad, was it not I who commanded the people to be numbered? I am the one who has sinned and done evil indeed. But these sheep," you see David, the shepherd, coming out? "But these sheep, what have they done?" Speaking to the Lord, "Let your hand, I pray, O Lord my God, be against me, and my Father's house, but not against your people, that they should be plagued. We're reminded of the sinless one, the Son of David, who gave his life for us while we were still sinners. John 10, verse 11, Jesus says this, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people like you. Your giving to Groundworks Ministries transforms lives. Would you consider donating to Groundworks Ministries today? We need your monthly support now more than ever. Donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. You know, there's another way to help. Tell people about Groundworks Ministries. Share these podcasts with your friends and family and on your social media. And of course, you can always direct folks back to our website, groundworksministries.com.